I'm Sid Cicero. He is Tim McCall. This is Tim and Sid. We are live coast to coast in Canada. Mark Shapiro is the president and CEO of the Toronto Blue Jays. Normally we say a bunch of stuff off the top. He's an important guy. Let's get right to it.
That was what I asked you. That's how I wanted to be introduced.
It was in your rider.
Yes.
No.
Please introduce me as important guy.
Get right to the point. Yeah, the M&Ms will be in momentarily.
Important guy.
Always a pleasure. Thank you for coming in.
Yeah, I enjoyed being with you guys.
A lot of things we kind of want to kick around with you, obviously. First things first. 12 games left in the year.
Yeah.
How would you describe it?
I would describe it as great progress. You know, we've transitioned a lot of talent to the major league level. And I think what we've seen shows us that there is real talent there. There are gaps, but there's a lot of real talent there. We've established a standard and a culture that I think behind the scenes demonstrates these guys care about each other. They want to get better. They believe in their ability, which is really important. Like, these guys think they're going to win it next year, which is pretty cool to be around them, to feel that. And I think that there's an understanding, and they've competed every single game. Even when we've gone through streaks where we've lost 6 in a row, we've been in every game, they competed. So I think we leave the season, or get close to leaving the season, thinking, okay, we've got to transition from competing to winning, which is a big step.
Right.
And we have to continue to develop and plug gaps where we have some gaps.
I think a lot of people want to know how you make that transition.
Yeah. Well, there's two things. You know, one is patience, which it's really hard to have when you're watching. It's hard to have in our job. It's harder to be a fan.
I think a lot of people on Twitter are patient.
I noticed that.
Yeah,
social media
that's
seems
the
to
strength
be.
of Twitter.
The most
Social
patient
media
stuff.
is just a manifestation of
Well,
patience.
good. Sorry, I didn't mean to jump right into that. I'm sorry, Mark.
I think we understand.
What's Twitter?
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to jump all of that. Sorry.
What's Twitter?
Forgive me, 'cause you-
I mean, the reason why I say patience is because in sport in general, and I was talking about this with someone about the NFL the other day, if you have the ability to stay the course and you have the strength to do it, and you have objective reasons for believing in a player and his ability and his character, you're usually rewarded. But along the way, you're going to go through some really tough moments where you're going to be forced to doubt that player's talent and ability, and you're going to question his effort at times just because you're watching him in the micro every single day. And baseball is every single day. It's 162 times a year, and then we're watching him another 30 down in spring training games. It's really like 45 days. So patience is one thing, and then active development and work. And I think Charlie and our staff this year have been really proactive, and there doesn't tend to be a lot of development in general at the major league level. It tends to be, okay, you got here, we're here to work and help give you the work you need, but you got to take responsibility for your own development. We've been actively working to develop our players this year, which I think we needed to do because a lot of them in a different setting would have been at AAA, you know, for a lot of the year. But we need to keep getting better. We obviously have gaps defensively in particular to fill.
Right.
When I mean, I've heard Ross and you talk about when this team is competing, then you'll add to it and
Contending.
Contending. Forgive me.
We're competing now.
So
yeah.
how do you define contending? Because I think that's been a focal point with the fan base in terms of what the actual definition is. How would you define content?
I mean, to me, it's when we leave spring training with an objective reason to believe that we're capable of winning a playoff spot. That doesn't mean we're capable of winning the AL East necessarily.
So a wild card spot in your mind is just as valuable to the progression of this team as being 4 games out of a division lead at the end of August. That is just as important to you.
Well, I mean, listen, first of all, I always will, to the end of my days, will believe just get in, because anything can happen if you get in. Just get in. So the goal is to, you know, initially be playing meaningful games in September, which would definitely be contending, then get into the playoffs, and ultimately to win our division certainly gives you a better chance when you don't have to go into a one-game, really what equates to a one-game play-in rather than a one-game play-off. So we want to play meaningful games. That's the next step. Next April, they will be meaningful games because we'll have a clean slate and we'll be starting over again. But we want to play meaningful games now, you know, in September, leading into postseason, and then we want to play in postseason. So there will be steps. Can we skip the steps? Yeah, a lot of the teams that are going to play in the playoffs this year have skipped those steps and have made major jumps. And whether it's Tampa or whether it's Minnesota, you know, teams in the AL that have done that, I think we're capable of making a big jump. More importantly than me thinking that, our players think that. So, you know, we'll look to add, you know, whenever the opportunities present themselves. I don't think we've we haven't held back doing that now. There's just different sense of urgency at different time. And the other piece is balancing out the opportunities we're presenting to our players. Once we start giving playing time, we have to know there's a clear gap right now. At some point, it will just be upgrade performance, no matter what, because we're like right there in the threshold.
Right.
That's probably the delineation. Does that make sense, Sid?
Yeah, no,
Like,
absolutely.
Yeah, so the different times, like now it's, okay, we don't have a player that we want to give an opportunity to, and we're going to go out and get the best player we can. When we get to a certain point that we're that close within a playoff spot, it's where are we not performing, not necessarily is it a young player, and we're going to look to upgrade.